Welcome back. We're just going to be talking a little bit today about the Rainbow Cup for the Sylph Arena. My main focus is just to bring some interesting facts to your attention, such as what the top Pokemon for every type in my opinion is, and just describe them a little bit more. And then I'm going to give you more of a nifty pick, something that I think is interesting that will catch people off guard, and that might get you an edge just because people aren't expecting it, but might be a less superior pick if people are prepared for it. So let's jump right into it with the fire type. Our top fire type is Charizard for this cup. Just like all the fire types, Charizard is countering your grass types and your bug types. He's gonna want Fire Spin, Blast Burn, and Dragon Claw. If you really wanted to get interesting with it, if you have a Legacy Wing Attack Flamethrower, it actually performs better in some circumstances, but Blast Burn is just that strong and Dragon Claw gives you that spam. A lot of people are actually suggesting running Air Slash on him. You can make your decision from that. I'm gonna stick with the Fire Spin, Dragon Claw, Blast Burn moveset. His main counters, again, are the grass types like Venusaur, Meganium, and those Pokemon, and then the bug types like Beedrill and Forretress especially. Forretress has a double weakness to fire, and that's his only weakness, so you're gonna rip right through him. Now, while most people would go with like an off pick of Ninetales, I actually think Rapidash is a really fun choice. A lot of people that I've been testing with aren't ready for Rapidash, which gives me a little bit of an edge. Rapidash is going to run Fire Spin and Drill Run for the most part. As a secondary move, you can add Fire Blast. I don't think that's entirely necessary. Drill Run's going to cover enough because it's just strong enough in PvP to get what you want, and plus the Fire Spin is going to eat through the bugs and the grass types. It's not the most optimal pick. Absolutely not as the most optimal pick, but it's fun, I liked it, and it's something if you don't feel like using Ninetales and don't have Legacy Charizard or Typhlosion. As you can see, Rapidash has a lot of the same matchups, especially against the bugs. It's going to probably end up losing to Venusaur despite having Drill Run, which does neutral damage and a ton of it. But it's still going to lose to like the rock types and the water types. So you're not really losing a ton, but in Drill Run you're also getting an advantage in case you get thrown up against a Lantern with a little bit of energy. That Drill Run, if they're not ready for it, will decimate a Lantern. It won't entirely kill it, but it will do a ton of damage, sitting at about 115, which is over half of its health. So pretty good odds, especially against something that would normally lose against it. Charizard really doesn't have a ton of chance against Lantern, but a Rapidash at least has some of a chance. Next up is the Water type. Water type is there primarily to take out the Fire types, but the Water type also has a ton of diversity in its dual typings, so there's plenty of diverse options to choose to counter different things. So instead of covering Quagsire like every single other person or covering Lantern like every other single person, I wanted to talk more about Mantine. Mantine is one of the unique water types that can actually take out grass types because it's a water flying type. You're going to want to run a Ring Attack and Aerial Ace and Water Pulse, in my opinion. Bubble is picking up in usage, mainly to take out like things like Magcargo that are specifically there to counter it. But I think that the Wing Attack, Aerial Ace, and Water Pulse set is probably still one of the most general, diverse moveset pools that you can use. You can also run Aerial Ace and Ice Beam for Mirror Match, but I think that the Aerial Ace covers more than enough for a Mirror Match than anything else that you're going to bring. As for a more nifty water type, I call this little guy the Green Demon, your Politoed. He has the fastest surf move that you can get in this cup. The Mud Shot is just pouring out energy for you to use, but he also gets Earthquake if you have the Legacy move on him. But you don't really need the Legacy move to do everything. Earthquake just gives you a lot of power against electric types. But even without that Legacy Earthquake, you can bring Blizzard in. But if you do manage to have that Legacy moveset, it's basically going to be your Quagsire, where it's going to be spamming out moves really fast that are decently strong without having to deal with Quagsire's double grass weakness. So it's something to look at if you have access to that Legacy Politoed, or if you just are looking for something that is not Quagsire. Now we move on to the electric types. The electric types are pretty weak in this cup, so it's really hard to find a lot of good options that aren't Legacy. But we're going to quickly talk about them. Their main role is to take out the flyers. They also can take out many of the water types, but there's plenty of water types that can deal with the electric types with shields as well. So I consider the primary role as to take out things like Mantine and Charizard, specifically the flyers. That all being said, there's two that I want to take a look at. The first of which is Raichu. Raichu's going to want to run his Legacy Thundershock if he has it, and then Wild Charge and Brick Break. Brick Break is especially important because it's going to give it the ability to take out that Legacy Magneton that will give you lots of trouble. Probably not the most common electric type that people are going to be running, most people are probably going to be running Lantern, to be entirely honest, but Raichu has a lot of good matchups, and it's going to be only really beaten by the grass types. Grass types are resistant to electric type, and therefore Raichu is going to have a very hard time dealing with them, especially the ones that are part poison, because Brick Break is also going to be resisted by that poison type. As for my neat or nifty electric type, I like Electabuzz. Electabuzz is basically like what Alolan Raichu was in the Nightmare Cup, where it's going to be spamming out moves really fast, it's going to put on a lot of shield pressure, but it's pretty weak overall, so if you don't have shields, it's going to probably die. You can see that in its attacker rating being 53, but its defender rating being 94.7. Something that you can use as an electric type that I think can put out quite a bit of damage. It's going to be countered by a lot of the same things that Raichu is, and it's going to have a lot of the same matchups that Raichu does. So, pretty good replacement. If you don't have Legacy Thundershock Raichu, I like to use that as opposed to something that's more specific, and plus you get the dual, you get a spammy move and you get a strong second move, as opposed to having to rely on Wild Charge and Brick Break for Raichu. Now we move on to the bugs. The bugs' main job is to take out grass types, but they have some interesting other options. Fortress is your main meta pick. It's going to be the most effective bug type at doing exactly what it needs to do because it has that steel typing, which gives it so many resistances that it only has one weakness, as I said earlier, which is fire. So there's a lot of options with its moveset that you can run to. I think that the most effective is Bug Bite, Earthquake, and Heavy Slam. Gives it a lot of options for just taking out the grass types, farming up energy, and unleashing a couple powerful charge moves with an option for Shield Bait. A lot of people are choosing Rock Tomb just to give it a chance to take out a Charizard if it does have that opportunity with the energy already there. I don't think that is going to come up that much, and if you have the energy, you might as well just go for either burning a shield with Heavy Slam or go for the massive damage with Earthquake. Even though it's resisted, I think Charizard is going to take as much damage as he possibly can from it, and you get more coverage for other Pokemon. Just my opinion. You can do whatever you want to do with that Pokemon. There's a lot of versatility in its moveset. I think you'll be fine. But make sure to watch out for those fire types. They will just eat through it and you have no chance. So if you have a Charizard that gets thrown in front of you, get the heck out of there. The next bug type is something that most people really aren't talking about, and I really like it because if anybody that knows me well, they know that I like bird Pokemon or flying type Pokemon. While Yanma is not really a bird, it is a flying type Pokemon, and I have a weakness for it. So I'm going to cover that as my neat or nifty bug type Pokemon. So it's going to do most of the same job as a Mantine does, except it's going to do it without the grass type weakness. So it's going to mow down any of the grass types that it comes across for the most part. And it's going to be weak to only the ones that take out flyers, so the fire or the electric types. It also gets very strong moves in Ancient Power and Silver Wind. The Sims say that you should be running Ancient Power or Silver Wind as the dual charge moves, but I actually think Aerial Ace and Ancient Power are going to give you more of an option against most of the things. Ancient Power is going to take out most of the flyers and the fire types, and Aerial Ace will take out the grass types. And then you'll just be stuck with flying types, but Ancient Power still does neutral damage to those, and you don't really have that much of a chance against them to begin with. Does that make it weak? No, not really. I think it's actually pretty strong, and most people are not running dual electric types in this meta. I really think that if you have something to take out their electric type early, then you can throw out the Yanma, and you'll have a pretty strong chance against most of the rest of the team. You just have to worry about that Charizard unless you have the power set up for Ancient Power, in which case you're going to destroy it. It's double weak to rock type, and you're going to be fine. You just also keep in mind that Yanma doesn't have the stats of any evolved type Pokemon. It has to go to level 40, so it's expensive, and it still costs 50,000 Stardust and 50 candy for a dual charge move. Not a cheap option, but fun. And the last of our 5 types is Grass. We're going to start off with our top pick, Venusaur. It's going to be top of the meta. It's going to be something that everyone basically is bringing unless they can't get that Legacy Frenzy plant. You'll notice that mine has Razor Leaf. The Sims are definitely suggesting Vine Whip, Frenzy Plant, and Sludge Bomb. I was testing out Razor Leaf and I forgot to TM it before I took this video. Just ignore that. Razor Leaf is going to give you an edge only if you really want to destroy the water types in Quagsire. Otherwise, Vine Whip is going to give you the shield pressure that you need, and it's going to let you get to Sludge Bomb and Frenzy Plant to take out more things quicker. You choose what you want to do there, but Venusaur is going to be the one that you have to watch out for and the one that you need to prepare for and the one that you probably should be bringing. I'm very glad that I got somebody to trade me one because without it, I don't know where I'd be. Meganium is an option, but you'll see that I'm actually going to choose another Pokemon for the Nifty type. The reason that you bring Sludge Bomb, by the way, is because Sludge Bomb is going to be doing damage against all the grass types, at least neutrally. If they're just pure grass types, it's going to be super effective, and Sludge Bomb can actually basically take out a Charizard in case you get stuck in a matchup with that. That Vine Whip will charge up the Sludge Bomb pretty quick, and you can almost take it out, or at least burn a shield before you die. So my Nifty pick is Victory Bell, and this is kind of why I said to ignore Venusaur as a Razor Leafer, and it's because Victory Bell is going to be very strong with Razor Leaf, and it doesn't have any other really good grass option. So if you're going to run a Razor Leafer, I really would say run Victory Bell because it has Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade charges much faster than Frenzy Plant does, so you're actually going to be able to get to at least a couple charge moves before you die if you have a bad matchup. And Leaf Blade is super strong, so it gives you actually an option of a charge move that you can get to. Now the Razor Leaf is going to be an option for you if you don't have Frenzy Plant and you really want to take out things like Quagsire or Azumarill or Lantern. You're going to have the option to do so, and you'll be ripping through them faster than most people are ready for because they're going to be practicing primarily against things with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant. So they're going to be used to seeing very little damage but lots of energy gain, while you'll be taking out huge chunks of their health before they can probably get to even one charge move. It's a very different strategy option that you need to be prepared for in case somebody uses it against you, and something that you can throw in against somebody in case they're not ready. Another cool thing is that you actually get Acid Spray and Leaf Tornado with Victory Bell, which means that you can play with the stat boosting moves. I would suggest going more for Acid Spray than Leaf Tornado, because Leaf Tornado doesn't have a guaranteed chance to do anything, while Acid Spray has a very strong chance of baiting shields. Although you're most likely going to be using Leaf Blade, honestly, for the most part. You're going to want to go strictly for the damage. That Acid Spray does no damage, and if you don't get a shield on it, you've wasted every bit of energy that Razor Leaf has managed to give you, which isn't much. So be prepared, keep it in mind. It's a really interesting pick that I don't think a lot of people are going to be using, but if you don't have those legacy moves, this is an option. So these are my final thoughts for the Rainbow Cup, at least for the top 2 of each type. I have some other opinions about other things, but I'm really interested just to see how this first real weekend of tournaments comes out. I know that there's been plenty of tournaments in the very first weekend, the first and the second, that have played out, but I don't think that there was a lot of time for the meta to actually shift or to move around, and I think that this will be the first real weekend that we see any competitive changes and strategy adjustments that need to be made. And then we'll dig into some more Rainbow stuff before we get to our next cup. I personally like Rainbow Cup because you can have a lot of different options and a lot of different strategy choices, but it feels like such a miasma of just craziness and randomness that I'm not entirely sure that I'm confident in being able to do anything with it other than stick with main meta picks and hope for the best. It's going to come down to a lot of what your team composition is, what you've predicted, and how well you can read an opponent's team. So winning in this meta is not going to be as random as it felt in the Nightmare Cup probably, which is good for beginners and kind of bad for beginners because you have a disadvantage of not knowing all the strategic choices that people can make and not having the information of like what's a lead, what's a closer, what's an attacker, what's a defender. All those sorts of things for beginners that you're going to have to figure out as you go, and just hope that you can use them at a simplified guide to give you an idea of like this Pokemon beats that Pokemon, and I think that they're going to use that Pokemon, so I'm going to use this Pokemon. That's my best suggestion and my advice for people coming into this with no knowledge from previous cups. I hope that you succeed, I hope that you do well, and I hope that you enjoy the Rainbow Cup. It's very fun, it's just very different from what we're used to with the 5 types. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you see videos as I post them. We already know that that's not a very regular occurrence. I'm trying to work on it, but there's just a lot going on right now, and I'm just trying to get out as much as I can when I have something important to share. Thanks for watching. I'm ClyFox. I'll catch you in the next one.